what we did here, we tried to save a manager detail. So it was working fine. And again, let me repeat, on manager class, we have list of tasks here. That's why we had a for loop in our IMP class to process all the list of tasks coming from the request. And that's how we are sending it. One object or two object. You can always minimize this way. So I can see task view has two objects, one, two, and it could be more than one, 2 or 20, doesn't matter, but they will get assigned to manager. Okay, next thing is if I have to handle any exception. So right now I know how to get manager detail. So for now I won't initialize task. Let me quickly create a endpoint so I can integrate exceptional handling as well. So let me do that for you quickly. So process is same. Right click on your root package and I'll create a new package dot exception. Fine. So I'll create a first custom exception class, manager ID not found. Let's suppose I'm searching a manager with ID not found, and finish. So it's a simple Java class. I need to convert it into a exception, custom exception. So it says extends runtime exception. Then I need to create something. So right click, we have to generate. So okay, let me create a variable first. Private string exception message. Again, you guys are free to name it anything. I'm calling it exception message, capital M in a camel case, proper standard. Then we will generate. Let me do this in front of you by using mouse keyword. So right click, source, generate constructor using field. So only we have one field, so generate that. Then I'll generate one more constructor, source. I'll go with the superclass, this one, and I don't need any of. Let me keep the default one, then generate. Okay, fine. So this is done, and I need a method which can fetch the exception message here. So okay, let me get a method. So it goes like public string get exception message, and it will simply say return come on, and it will be that exception message variable. Done. So first step is done. We have a custom exception class ready. Next is what we need to call it from somewhere, right? So we have to create one more class. Now name is the concern. What should we call it? Earlier we just called that global exception handler something. Now we have application workforce app. So what I'll name it, workforce, the same way, workforce app, um, exception handler. Okay, so this is how you can follow along. So what you can see, I gave the application name and exception handler. Okay, so at exception, oh sorry, what is that, control advice. Then I'll create a method for the same exception. So public void, for now void, then I'll say handle, and it will be the same class what we just handled. So let's close other files, close others. Hit the class name, manager ID not found. Oh, my bad, I forgot to give the exception at the end. Against the rules of Java, so I'll refactor it. Okay, now copy, go back, wrong click this file and handle manager ID not found exception, and then we have to make it compatible that it is only for this exception. So this dot class, and here it will take argument of same type. Done. This is going to be, so let me just refer what we just did earlier. Okay, so you guys can easily connect. So when we were doing exception handler, this was global exception handler. So what we did, this is the point, but if you notice, instead of keeping it void, we used a class response entity, this one. So I'll copy this, and here instead of what is that? Oh, okay, I changed the class name, so that's the issue. Need to update everywhere. Copy it because these are constructors. Constructor should have the same name as of a class name. Okay, so response entity is done, and we need to return that as well. So I'll copy this message. You can see I'm just blindly copy pasting. I know this code was working, so I can rely on it, and this method will take this code. Okay, so exception is here. We're getting get exception message, and this time it will get changed. It is manager ID not found exception, and it says not found. Rest response is actually a map which contains two objects, exception class name this, and the reason we will get from here. Okay, now when we write uh, the logic for it, so exception class creation is done. Now you can focus on your endpoints. Manager control is here. I'll create a get point, which will be simplest one. Okay, get mapping, then get manager. We don't need to give the body, and we need to create service label, the service sample. So get manager, there it is, and we know when we are looking for manager, we are supposed to give ID. So it will be int ID. As soon as I do this, the other file will complete. It says you are not having that method. It just get manager. So let's update this as well. Int ID, and definitely we are looking for one ID. So I need to change this as well. It will be manager VO. Manager VO. Oops. Huh. Okay, done. So return type is changed now. And if I do change here, service ILPL will also complain that it is a void type. Okay, change it. Okay, so this is done. Now on the base of ID, I need to search it. So I'll do what? We have a endpoint ready and need to configure this repository, manage the repository. So I'll copy this, go here and say search find by ID. ID is this, and it returns optional object, optional of manager, the entity, not view but entity. So I'll say op optional manager and done. Fine. And then there goes a simple logic. It says if manager is empty. If it is empty, so throw the exception, and that's how we call the custom exception we created. So throw new manager ID not found exception, which takes one argument. So I'll say, oh, not here, here, manager ID. Then ID we have to give like this way, ID, then plus, then not found. Stop. Done. So let's test this much, that we are looking for an ID which is not present. And right now it is expecting something in return. So I'll say return null. Okay, for now returning null. So we don't get any compiler issue. No deadline, great. And let's run the application. Do we have a controller ready fully? No, we don't have. Okay, so manager service dot get manager ID, and we are not passing any ID yet. Completely lost it. So here ID we have to give, then at path variable, then int ID. Okay, code is create. Now right click, run as application. Okay, application running, great. Let's switch to Postman, copy the endpoint, one more tab, paste it, and this time I'll pass 1. And okay, we have that code which says if it is not, request sent, and I can see message coming. It says exception class name manager ID not found, and reason is manager ID handed not found, and this is coming from the exception we just created. Likewise, you can follow along with the same code and try to create your own exceptions. I just handled ID. Likewise, might be when you're trying to add something. So when you're trying to add a duplicate manager or duplicate task, accordingly handle these kind of scenarios. That will take time. I'll say 6 to 7 hours. If you are doing it from the scratch, 6 to 7 hours per day. So at least you have to spend 8 to 10 hours in this project. Only then you can do this much. Then there's a point of teaching all these stuff. Otherwise, you guys are just watching again some regular videos. So try to create, adapt that way. So handle these kind of scenarios, and already told you, create at least 4 exception per entity. So 8 exception I'm expecting in your system on Monday. So this is how we handle exception. Okay, and now you can continue with that remaining code. So if it is not, okay, let me complete this code at least. So if user is found, so we have to get that data, and that data is inside OP manager. So I'll say OP manager, give me the data, and I'll store that in a manager object, manager, and I'll say DB manager because we don't have manager yet. Yeah, we don't have, so I can call it manager for now. I thought we'll get some duplicate issue. Okay, now this is entity, but watch out, it says manager view is a return type, so we have to convert or fetch data from entity and push that into a view class. Okay, like a reverse of it. Here we fetched from view and insert it into manager. Now we have to do the reverse of it. Now we will fetch detail from man entity and push it into view. So it's going to be a reverse of it. So let's create. For now, I'll write only code for manager. You guys have to handle task as well, because for now, when I'll execute this code, task will come empty because I won't write a for loop on it. I'll see how you guys can manage it. Okay, so I'll create an object of manager view, then I'll say manager view, give me set ID. This time, because we have to show it and ID is already there, now I can set it. Earlier when we were setting it, it was not required because ID is not coming from request. Okay, and now I can fetch that ID from the manager object, get, then manager vo dot set mail manager dot get name manager view dot set age manager dot get age manager view dot set email manager view dot get email manager vo. Very cautious when you're doing this kind of stuff. We are just left with VOs. So for now, I'm not getting it. You guys have to run a for loop like we did here. This time we were getting from or fetching details from VO. Here you have to run a for loop which will fetch data from manager object, and instead of task view it will be task, and then do the reverse of it, it will be done. And finally, if it is done, I'll return that object, that manager view, response. Okay, it's done. Let's stop the service. Now if I give a correct detail, this time we just have one record, so this should get or fetch that manager record except the task of it. Started, and let me make it 1. Request sent. Oh, I'm not getting it. Why? I think I'm not returning it on controller. Yep, I'm not returning it. Even the type is wrong. Manager view. Done. Code format done. Stop the service. Stop. Okay, let's run this again. Right click, run as. I think we don't need this project as well. Even I've done with the right click on it. Where is that? Close. Okay, fine. So only one project is open. Now I can use this one, green button. We started. Request again. And yes, I'm getting details of manager. ID, name, email. Oh, email is not coming. Did I messed up? Yeah, here it is. As I said, I think I was speaking on the same line and I did the mistake. So yeah, everything should be manager, not from manager view. Manager view will take the data, not set it. Okay, run again. Since it's a GET request, it is safe. You can execute it n number of times. Your database won't get affected. We saw that. Okay, so email is also coming. Try for task views and let's see how far you guys will go with that. Same way, try to cover up get all manager, leave update and delete. We can discuss it later as well. And what else? So at least try to. I'm not going further. You guys have still have lots of tasks to cover up. So do that first. Then we can talk about some other concepts. So one topic we have to cover that is Swagger. So if you think you can, I'll repeating again. If you think you can cover up task and delete and get all, leave the update manager. Okay, I'll do that myself in front of you in next class. So leave the update. Try to complete all the task related API calls. That will be straightforward. Don't do bidirectional. Just keep your task class standalone. Try to handle all the exception cases. Just keep the IDs there. Okay, don't do any other bidirectional thing. And try to cover up get all managers and delete manager API. Update manager will remain same, and I'll do that in front of you because that takes some more details. Maybe you want to change some other details except manager, so we have to deal that with as well. And okay, if you guys okay, let me do one more thing, guys. Here, I'm creating one more layer. So if you guys notice when we were adding the details like this way, okay, I'm taking only talking about this part and taking this add user as in a consideration. So when we were sending details from front end means the postman right now. So it gives details here, and we have to fetch details here, setting up. Okay. Then we also fetched details from manager view and set up here. Same thing we did here. I'm just explaining. I'll do that in next class because otherwise it will be mixed up. Here we are trying to fetch manager detail. This time we get data from manager, and we are fetching from manager and setting up in view class. So what we will do in next class, first is we have to update. I'm writing it for myself so I know what you have to do next class. First of all, we have to fix update manager API. Next, we have to write a new package. It's for me. So write a new package and extract duplicate codes, or we have a one interesting term we call this boilerplate code. Okay, so write a new package, we will create that, and we will extract all duplicate code which is known as boilerplate code, and we'll put it there. So idea is we will create a class, I'll call that manager. What should I call that? um, I'm just thinking the best way to keep a good naming convention here. Manager something. Okay, I'll leave it the name, we'll decide later. But the idea would be whatever the class will be, XYZ. So we will create two methods. One will say fetch data from view class and try to understand the concept and set data into entity class. Okay, and next would say fetch data from entity class and set it into view class. So these are going to be different methods. One method for this, one method for this. So you can see we are doing this in our actual implementation. We are fetching data from manager view. All the highlights are there, and then setting inside manager and its subclasses. We did the reverse of it. We fetched the data this time from manager. From here we fetched, and then we are setting inside manager view. So we are doing this, and this is not just for these methods. We have to do this in get all manager, update manager, and delete manager as well. So once we are done with the implementation of it, might be some of it, so we will implement this functionality. Some XYZ class will create. I'll come up with some better name, and this is what we're going to do. So something I'll say from view to entity, then code goes here. The same duplicate code we are writing again. This time it will go, oops, wrong key. It will done here, and next will be from entity to VO. Okay, and this will have a different implementation. So we can make it like centralized thing. So every entity or VO class can use it. So you don't have to write these code again and again in your service MPL. So one time is done, then these method will be static method. Static method. So I gave you overview what I am up to. If you understood, try from your end if possible. Otherwise, we will do that together in my class on next class. Okay, fine. That's it for today, guys.